621-4110. And then without further ado, let's get on here with Jeanna Wellbrock. Welcome in.
Hey.
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Good to be here.
It looks like we're going to be talking about, your pilgrimage to the Camino. So there's probably a lot of people out there that have no idea what that is. We'll get to your bio here, then we'll just jump right in. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Fantastic. So Jeanna Wellbrock was born and raised Catholic, spending most of her childhood in Beloit, Kansas, with a 40-year-old stint in Lincoln, Nebraska. She's been married to her husband, Curtis, for 22 years, almost 23 in July. Congratulations. They have 7 beautiful children that have walked this earth, and one of them ran ahead of them to heaven 9.5 years ago. They own DNL Body Shop, which has been a blessing to allow her to stay home with her children and work there when it fits her schedule while still taking little ones to work. She loves teaching second grade religion at St. Fidelis in Victoria, and has also been the high school CYO sponsor for the past 9 years. Working with youth and sharing her faith is her passion. Well, that is absolutely wonderful. Thank you for the work that you do, for the ministry that you have over there and within our communities. We appreciate that.
I love it.
Right. So people are probably wondering, if they don't know anything about it, what in the world is the Camino de Santiago?
So it is St. James is responsible for spreading Christianity across that portion of Spain. And so especially in like the northern region around Galicia. So it was after St. James was killed, his disciples took his body back to Spain and asked if they could bury him there. And after multiple attempts on them to kill them, because the queen did not want him buried there, but she didn't want to tell him no because Christianity was so popular that it would have actually been a backfire situation for her. So she actually said no to start with and sent them to different people who tried to kill them, were not successful in killing them. And so she finally ended up giving in and allowed him to be buried there, which then the Compostela was built, which is the big, ginormous church spanning multiple city blocks, where he is buried underneath the altar. So the Camino is multiple people make a pilgrimage. There's several different routes through all of Europe. I mean, you can start in France, you can start in Portugal, and you walk anywhere from 10 to 20 miles a day to carrying everything on your back until you reach the Compostela and come into Santiago. And it's a pilgrimage.
So, which route did you take?
We took the Camino Inglés, which is one of the shorter routes, but it still meets the requirements for getting your certificate of completion, and you actually did enough to count.
Okay.
So we picked the shorter one mainly because I have a whole bunch of children and my husband was going to be stuck at home with all of them. So my timeline of being able to be gone, there are people who go and walk months. And I don't have months to take off and leave a 3-year-old behind, or 2-year-old at the time. So
how long was your trek?
We walked for 7 days. I was gone a total of 10, but we walked for 7 days.
Okay. And how many miles did you walk personally for each of those days?
It was anywhere from 10 to 20 miles a day.
Okay.
It kind of ranged in between there.
Terrain? I mean, are you looking like Kansas? Are you Colorado?
It's definitely not Western Kansas. So I had trained for it. I had walked anywhere from 10 to 15 miles all summer long, carried the 2-year-old on my back. So I had 35 pounds on my back. I was like, yep, my pack will be under 35 pounds. Not a problem. I trained. It was definitely much steeper hills, much rougher terrain than what we have around here. I really should have gone to Wilson Lake and walked every single day over there, because that's about the only way I would have had comparable terrain.
Okay. So yeah, you're talking loose gravel, rocks,
rocks,
like
steep hills. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not exactly, Western Kansas, walk around Victoria terrain.
Both of our boys are in Scouts, and been to Philmont. So I understand, what that trek might be like, but Scouts, you're talking about, well, we're going to go camp and do these things and stuff like that. What on earth would make you decide to, hey, let's go in another part of the world and let's go backpacking there. not for the camping experience, but for another reason.
Well, so you notice I've never been on any of those campouts. There's a reason. There's a reason. I'm not the most outdoorsy person. So we'd have to rewind back all the way to December of 24. And I am one of 4 children. And so my brother and I have always, we've always been close. He's always had my back and everything. So my mom called one day and she was really worried about him. Although we were all raised Catholic, he has fallen away and is struggling with what he believes. And so, at one point in time, it was, not sure he even believed in God, not sure like there might be a higher being, but maybe not necessarily God. So we have different faith stances on things, but he's always respected mine and I respect him for his. And so my mom called and she was like, you've got to do something. Like, I'm just so worried about him. And I'm thinking, what do you want me to do? Like, this is your son. I don't know what you want me to do. He's a grown adult. Like, I'm not sure how you want me to fix this, but okay. So kind of dismissed my mom. And then Kurt and I had adoration later that either the next day or that night, whatever. And so I had taken it to adoration with me. There was a kiddo from back home that also a few years prior had a car accident and he had just been flown out. He's left with major health issues after that. And so I'm sitting there in adoration, chewing out God, because that's kind of God and I's relationship sometimes in adoration, not saying it's appropriate theology, but so I decided that I wasn't supposed to probably do that during adoration. So I picked up Bishop Barron's book on how to pray. And chapter 2 said that it was appropriate to yell at God and be angry. So I closed the book, looked at the monstrance and said, well, back to you. And so God and I sorted things out for a while. And overwhelmingly, when people used to say, oh, God put this on my heart, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's nice. Sure he did. Sure he did. That's how you're justifying how you feel, but okay, sure. And so, God decided to teach me what that was like. And he very clearly told me to go walk El Camino with my brother. And I laughed and I was like, no, not doing it. Bed bugs, God. No, you're supposed to stay in hostels. No, like that's not, nope, not me. Sorry. No. And he was like, no, go walk El Camino with your brother. And I was like, you know what? My brother loves architecture, like history and architecture. I will go over to Europe. I will travel and see all those old churches with him. Like, we'll do that. And he, how can you stand in the Sistine Chapel and deny that God's real? Like, I've never been, but I figured it was a really good debate with God. And so Camino with your brother. And I went, that's a really big ask. And all that could pop into my head at that point in time was Mother Angelica. And talk about a big ask. Hey, go build this station and like no money. And I'm like, okay, yes, but I'm not Mother Angelica, God. Like, okay, I will go see all of the Eucharistic miracles. I mean, he's a scientific person. He wants science. So, we'll go and travel and see all the Eucharistic miracles. And surely like that'll be the science he needs. And God's like, go walk El Camino with your brother.
I love how he's the hound of heaven.
I'm a little stubborn. So I said, fine, I'll think about it. Because that's how we should answer, right? Like God calls some people and they're like, yes, Lord, I'd love to go. Obviously, I am not the Blessed Mother. I am not good at the like, oh, sure, your will. I kind of like my will to be factored in. So I told him I would think about it, got out to the car, told my husband about adoration. He kind of chuckled and was like, oh, okay. He knows how non-outdoorsy I am. And I think was just like, sure. And how are we going to make that work? The logistics of kids at home and owning a business and all of the, okay, yeah, sure. Like not telling me I couldn't, but just kind of like, okay, here's another harebrained idea of my wife. But so the next day, I called my mom. Kurt and I were on our way to Home Depot and I called my mom to tell her about adoration. And before I got anything out of my mouth, she tells me that she and my dad had stopped and had breakfast with my brother and he had brought up El Camino again. And she told him that she thought I would walk it with him.
Thanks, Mom.
And I had never even insinuated that I would consider it to her. So the fact that she's now saying this, I'm like, oh, the Holy Spirit decided he couldn't move me, so he went and moved her. Okay. So I chuckled, and so did Kurt, and we're kind of like, okay. Got off the phone. Kurt looks at me and goes, well, it looks like you're walking out Camino. I said, yeah, looks like it. I'm a little scared to tell God no.
Yeah.
Like he's pretty definite at this point. So I called my brother, said, hey, let's walk El Camino. Mom said you brought it up again. Let's do it. He's like, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And he's like, you realize that you're going to have to train for it. I said, I'm fully aware. Like, I'll do it. Kind of tried to scare me out of it, I think, and I'm like, no, like, I'll do it. And he's like, you're gonna, like, it's gonna be hard. I'm aware. I'm aware. I'm leaving kids behind. So I just told him, I was like, you know what? I've got kids and 5,000 things to do. You don't. So you plan it. Tell me where I need to be when I need to be there. So he sent me some dates, and he said, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right, and we will be there for high mass, which okay.
Wow.
And I was like, all right. And he said, you realize that people crawl in on their knees, they kiss the statue, and, go to confession, all of these things, he's like, there's a process. And I said, I'm the practicing Catholic. So if that's supposed to be scary, I'm not scared. Like, I'm good. And so he gave me the dates of high mass, and November 1st was All Saints Day. So high mass. And so we had to be in Santiago by then. So count backwards, and that's when we start.
Wow. That is wonderful. I don't want to have to break away from this, but I do got some announcements that I need to make really quickly, and they're good ones. I want to first congratulate Norma Pipkin, who is our trivia winner. So Norma got the question of which of these parishes added mysteries of the Rosary and more to the artwork in their church. The correct answer there was Immaculate Heart of Mary. So congratulations to Norma. We'll get you put into that drawing. Also, I want to thank Karen Thrillkel, who pledged $50. Thank you so much for being a loyal listener and supporter, Karen. If you would like to join with Karen, when she gave $50, we have wonderful people who support us and give us matching donations. And they do that so that your donations will immediately be doubled. So through their generosity and through Karen's generosity, that is a $100 donation. So please prayerfully consider donating today. Call 785-621-4110. We are on our spring carathon. Behold, I make all things new. We have that carathon goal of $125,000. Still have around $20,000 in matching funds. Let's see what we can do to do our best to get those used up today. And by the way, please thank yourself. Thank God for blessing you and blessing us, because we are now going to be moving into a bigger space, and that's because of you, your generosity, and because we've been able to grow so much through your gifts and the gift of the Holy Spirit. Please continue to pour those gifts on to us. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. We are in talking with Jeanna Wellbrock about Called to Walk, her pilgrimage to the Camino. So I want to hear some more about this. Your brother, who, he's not a professed atheist, but probably agnostic, just I'm not sure, calls you and wants to walk the Camino.
So side note to that is, years ago, he watched the movie The Way.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of where I think his interest peaked in it. And he had called my mom and asked her if she'd ever seen it. She hadn't. She watched it, called him back, and he said, I'd be willing to do that. And she was going to do it with him when she retired, but then her hip is bad and she can't have hip replacement surgery. So she's obviously not able to walk it with him. So that was kind of the disappointment, I think. So I guess that's how I got voluntold to be the person to do it, which it was a great experience. And I remember being at the campus center event, the Becoming Light event last year, and talking with Christian Lutz about it. And he made a comment to me, and it hit home and it stuck. And because he said, man, what I would have done to have that opportunity with my brother. And he's like, but I lost him before I did.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, like, I need to change my mindset. And that's when I really looked at like the spiritual warfare that was going to go into it, because I love my brother dearly, but the devil doesn't have to work real hard on somebody who doesn't believe in God. And so the devil's like, not really going to work too hard. So my brother was easy to get along with, like as long as we didn't talk about religion, we're solid. And even we could talk about religion because we respect each other's differences and stuff. Like probably the most out of anybody I've ever talked to with such varied opinions or beliefs. And so, but it was interesting because I knew like the devil was going to come after me, because if he didn't want me to get my brother back on God's side. Like,
Yeah.
And so I went into it knowing like I'm the one that's going to face the biggest attack, because if I fall, that's a total opportunity to prove that my brother's right and that his beliefs are correct. And so I went into it knowing, and, my mom was like, and the fact that you're okay with that. And I said, I'm not okay with it. It's just, I also know what I'm taking with me, and I'll get through it. God will handle this, but it's not going to be easy. And it's not necessarily the physical part. It's going to be the spiritual warfare that is going to come after me. And she's just like, I think it kind of freaked her out a little bit when I said that. Cause it's not that I was like, oh, bring it on, but there was an element of like, it's coming and I better be prepared for it, because it's not going to just let me lead him easily.
Yeah. Well, there's a good question then. As you're going through this, obviously it's good that you had that mindset of, I need to prepare spiritually. So one, how did you do that? Two, what are some of the things that you saw happen through this that, some of the stumbling blocks that Satan tried to throw in your way of like, good luck with this?
So the prep part was really like, it went well. I walked with a friend who for 14 years, I had been trying to convince her to join the Catholic Church. She was married to one of my former students. He was Catholic. I just felt like it was a good fit. Her oldest daughter is the same age as my twin. So I kept planting seeds for 14 years. Well, guess what? Easter, she joined the church.
Wow.
And while we were walking over the summer, she was just like, hey, I've been thinking about joining the Catholic Church. I wondered if you'd be my sponsor. And so I'm like, hey, look at this. This is working out, cause we walk, I'll bring up God. I'll talk about the Catholic faith with anybody, Catholic or not Catholic. I'm going to bring it up. And so, I was like, yeah, this is going to work. 14 years I've been working on her, and all of a sudden I get that over the summer. So I felt like that was kind of like hey, you can do this, Jeanna, like, here you go. Carrot that God was feeding me. And he was, but it wasn't quite ready for Camino level. But, so we, I would, many times when I would walk by myself, I would pray the rosary as I walked, or, St. Michael and I are very good friends. He is my best friend, very close, because I feel like sometimes when I feel unheard by everyone else, he shows up and takes care of things. So I had all of that done. Like I said, I trained every day all summer long, and our yard is fairly hilly. And so I would just walk our property and water trees. Our trees and garden looked better than they ever had, because I was just watering and walking, and I felt very prepared. I was not.
Okay.
So it was probably, I think it was day 3. I had blisters covering my feet. Seriously, like, I think day 3 was 7. By the time it was all done, I had like 11 to 15 blisters. They kind of all just started growing into each other. I had taken blister Band-Aids. I was wearing the same shoes I wore all summer. They were broken in. So I was miserable, and I was sitting there. You know how when you walk, you get something in your head, you kind of like a chant, and it'll be like, so it was like, oh my God, help me. Oh my God, help me, as I was taking every step. And by day 3, I was legit like shuffling my feet the last probably 1.5 to 2 miles to where we were staying. It was miserable. And of course, my husband, being a scout, had sent moleskin and blister Band-Aids and all the things. None of it was helping. And we walked in absolute torrential downpour. Like, rain gear did not matter. You were soaked under your rain gear. Everything in my pack was soaked. I mean, I was walking behind my brother and could not see him.
Wow.
It was raining so hard. I mean, I just looked at my feet and just kept on the trail. And so we were soaking wet. We made it to our place. I was miserable. He was going to go find something to eat. I couldn't walk downstairs to find something to eat. It hurt too bad. I was like, protein bar is good enough for me today. So I was laying there. I called my husband and I was quitting. I had decided I was done. I hurt. It was miserable. And so I called Kurt and I was like, I'm done. My feet are covered in blisters. My ankles hurt because when you have the blisters, your ankle, then you walk different. So your ankles, well, then when your ankles, your knees, then your knees go to your hips. And I'm like, I'm miserable. This is terrible. I quit. And he knows me well. And so he said, you're tired. Take a nap, get a snack, and pull your crap together. And my husband.
Good advice.
But my husband, that's not normally him. Like that would be me saying it to him, but he's usually like very kind and compassionate to me. So the fact that he's just like, pull it together. Like, and I was like, did you seriously? And he said, yeah, I just told you to pull it together. And he's like, because you're not quitting. He's like, you will be mad at yourself if you quit. So get a snack, take a nap, and pull your crap together. Call me later. And that was the extent of the phone call. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I guess the Holy Spirit probably moved him to say that because he knew that's what needed to come. I think my husband was also like, I'm all the way across the world. You can't get too mad right now. So I did. I ate my protein bar. I was getting ready to take a nap and I just couldn't. I was just so mad at God because I'm just like, why? Why me? Why am I covered in blisters? I came to do this for you. Like, why am I covered in blisters? Why isn't he covered in blisters? He's the one that doesn't believe. He should be suffering a little bit. Like, this is hogwash, God. Like, I'm done. And so I was like, okay, Jeanna, before you left, you told your mom, like, spiritual warfare, you are going to have to change your mindset. Like, this is a mind game. Pain is a choice. Like, it is time to cowgirl up and you need to change your mindset. So I decided I would mindlessly scroll through Facebook because that way, like, go to a different part of my mind. The very first thing that came up was a picture of Padre Pio and a woman who had come to him and was talking about how she had been in massive pain for 20 years. And she had lived this good life. She had done all of these things. And she just, she's prayed for God to relieve her pain. I'd done that for the last 15 miles that day. He wasn't listening. So I'm like reading this and I'm like, check. Yeah. And Padre Pio responded to her and said, what favor the Lord has chosen. And I'm like, favor? And he said, we don't see suffering as favor, but it is. And your brother, you have two brothers that are not living good lives, and the rest of your family isn't either. And I'm like, check. Not so much on the rest of the family, but okay, check on the brother. And you will suffer for 2 more years, but you will have saved their soul for all eternity.
Wow.
And I went, oh, okay. So I did what I always do. I can't do things easily. I looked up and I was like, all right, God, fine. I'll finish this. I will not quit, but I still call bologna sandwiches on this. And so I changed the whole like, oh my God, help me chant in my head. The next day it was, I'm dragging his butt to heaven. I'm dragging his butt to heaven. And I walked at a much faster pace and I was doing better. My brother's like, hey, he's like, you're walking better today. Like feeling better. And I was like, nope, just changed my mindset. And that's how I finished the Camino. Like I was still in immense pain. It was absolutely miserable. My feet hurt terribly, but I finished because I decided I was dragging him all the way to heaven.
And that's a good spiritual lesson for the rest of us when we talk about offering it up. Yeah. I mean, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's not like you enjoy the pain.
No,
it's not what offer it up
not.
is.
I mean, we got into Santiago and, the outside of the church was absolutely breathtaking and amazing. It's huge. And, like I've been to DC to the Basilica there. It's also very massive. And so it like Santiago, the outside of the church was beautiful. And then, we're going to high mass the next day. And all along the way, I had drugged my brother into all these little churches along the way. Because I'm like, I love to go see old churches. Yeah. Like that is just one of my favorite things to do is just go check out old churches. And I mean, even traveling with CYO, the kids know that if we drive by some church, there's a solid chance that we're going to take a detour and I'm going to like we're going to stop here and go in and, say a Hail Mary, guys. So it's kind of my thing. So I checked out a lot of churches and I made him go with me. I mean, I wasn't letting it be all about him.
Yeah.
But so we were going to get up early the next day so that we could be in line and get a seat in the church and everything. We got up early. We were there early and there was still a massive line. We stood in line for probably a solid hour to get into church.
Wow.
But I walked in and I was actually kind of underwhelmed, which is terrible to say. The time period of art is not my favorite.
Oh, okay.
The cherubs kind of remind me of the freaky plastic clown masks from my childhood. Like I didn't walk in and be like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Because I mean, I'm also spoiled. I've got the Basilica of St. Fidelis. I've got, like I look at the churches in Ellis County. We've got some amazingly beautiful churches. You go to St. Louis, to the Basilica there, and that is gorgeous. I've been to Washington, D.C., and that is absolutely mind-blowing. And so compared to some of those, I'm like, yeah, it's not quite as pretty as what I've seen. But I mean, it's just the time period of art, not my thing. The size of it, absolutely amazing. The history, just the pilgrimage aspect of it and the people who come in. And I understand why they come in, some of them on their knees because, well, they can't walk any farther. But so yeah, but we attended mass. I'm drawing a blank.
That's okay. Gather your thoughts because I want to break in really quickly. So we're talking with Jeanna Wellbrock, Called to Walk, a pilgrimage to the Camino. And I want to remind everybody that you're listening to our spring carathon, Behold, I Make All Things New. That carathon goal that we have is $125,000. As I mentioned earlier, we still have about $20,000 in matching funds. So if you can help us to make it to our goal, please call 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. I also want to remind people that you can donate at dvmercy.com and you can watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble. Yesterday, I was watching on Facebook in my office. Like I mentioned earlier, I work at St. Nick's, and so it's very easy, very much a blessing to be able to do that. But if you are at a job that allows you to do that, turn on Catholic Radio, watch us here on Facebook, and please help us to continue this ministry on all the platforms that we are on. Call 785-621-4110 with your pledge. We also want to get to a second question. So our trivia question is the same number. If you think you know this answer, 785-621-4110. Let's get to our second question of the 9 o'clock hour. Which of these parishes came on to talk about the changes made to their church? Is it A, St. Mary's Salina, B, St. Mary's Russell, C, St. Mary's Ellis, or D, St. Martin's in Seguin? Which of these parishes came on to talk about the changes made to their church? A, St. Mary's Salina, B, St. Mary's Russell, C, St. Mary's Ellis, or D, St. Mary's Seguin. 785-621-4110. You can call that with your answer, with your pledge, or both. Let's hop right back into speaking with Jeanna Wellbrock about her trip to the pilgrimage to the Camino. So we stopped off. I want to get a couple of things and then just let you go right back into your story. Oh, by the way, I'm told that it is pronounced Seguin. So my apologies to those in Seguin. So Jeanna, one of the things I want to know, and this is just a little side note from, times at Philmont and stuff like that. What does it look like to prepare for this trip? We know about your walking, about prayer and stuff like that. But what does it look like to pack for something like this?
Well, that's where my husband came into play because I had no idea how to backpack. But we legit carried everything on services that you can pay for that will shuttle your bag from one spot to the next and you don't have to carry it.
That's a cheat.
If my brother was doing it, we were doing it right. He was going to see if there was anything real to any of this. So we carried our stuff. So I took like 2 pairs of pants, 1 pair of shorts, socks. Like it was pretty minimalistic.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere to wash your clothes. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, we did, I think day 4 or 5, my brother did go find a laundromat and did some laundry because we were both smelling delicious and it was time. So yeah, we definitely packed as light as possible. There was nothing extra. I did at one location, I had like an extra t-shirt, and I think I had taken a dress along in case I needed it for mass.
Yeah.
And I decided God was getting me how he got me. And so I actually left some of that stuff in that room because I was like, I'm taking everything out that I do not need. I am miserable. So I did offload some stuff there.
What about food too?
So that was the amazing part. Where we had breakfast and dinner provided at most of the places that we stayed, because we didn't do the hostel thing. That's where we did cheat.
Okay.
And we had legitimate like Airbnbs or hotel, whatever accommodations. That was the bed bug part. That was the one negotiation with God I wasn't giving in on. I was like, I am not staying in hostels. I need to be able to sleep. I'm old and I need to be able to sleep. If like I will do this, but I need actual accommodations. Because sometimes you can show up to hostel and it's full, and so you gotta go find another one and it's full.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, no, I'm not gonna go completely roughing it. There's limits. So we did have some really amazing accommodations. So actually, we missed our flight out of Dallas Fort Worth. So we flew out of Kansas City, flight out of Dallas Fort Worth gets canceled. And it was supposed to leave like late that night and it kept getting delayed and then it's canceled. So we end up spending the whole next day that we were supposed to be in Spain in Dallas's airport. And so by the time we got to Spain, where we were supposed to have a whole day there to kind of prepare, get our bearings, figure it out, talk to the locals, kind of know what expectations are. Instead, we had to walk the first leg in the dark.
Oh, wow.
Because since we had our accommodations booked, we couldn't just bump it a day and just stay a day later. Like everything was very scheduled. And so we had to do that. So we actually got lost in the dark, walked an extra like 3 miles. Finally, I was like, I'm pretty sure we're lost. We came to a sign that was a Camino sign, and the 2 paths that were on there were neither one of the treks that we were taking. So it was very positive that we had taken a wrong turn at some point in time. And we found out that it was back by the donkeys a few miles back, we're pretty sure is where. And I'm like, I'm not going back. So we walked into a town, went into a bar because that's all that was open at the time, and used very broken Spanish to figure out if we could maybe get a taxi to try and figure out where we were supposed to go, because we had no idea even which direction to go. My phone was telling me one direction, his phone was telling him another direction.
Oh boy.
And so we're like, well, we're off to a great start. But it was absolutely beautiful scenery that night. It was kind of fun walking in the dark. We were walking around a big bay, and so the lights and the boats and all of it, that was really pretty cool. And to see the city from the other side of the bay once we got around.
Okay.
Ended up staying in one of the most amazing places I think I've ever stayed. Totally would go back. It was an old like rock, and it was a very old place with floating steps, and it was gorgeous. And I was like, hey, if this is how things are going to be the whole trip, I can do this. We got there at 10 o'clock at night. And that's the thing, is Spain eats late. Like nothing is open in the afternoon because they're all taking their naps. But at night is when they open up. Most of the restaurants don't open up until like 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Oh.
So when we got there at 10, they still had dinner for us. And it was some of the best shank steak I had ever eaten. And the bread was amazing and the wine was amazing. And I thought, okay, this is awesome. Like I can do this. This is great. I had no idea what was coming, but in the morning they had fresh squeezed orange juice because there were oranges everywhere. I mean, we would walk along the road and there's just oranges all over on the road. So that was a lot of times lunch was oranges that you found along the trek.
Wow.
So, or protein bars that I had stuck in my pack.
Yeah.
That was the extent of lunch usually, because by the time we would get to the next town, everything was closed down because they were all taking their naps. So
Wow, just things that we might not think about there.
It was good.
Okay. We are talking with Jeanna Wellbrock, called to walk her pilgrimage to the Camino with her brother. You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio Spring Carathon. Behold, I make all things new. I want to congratulate, it looks like Nancy Niermeyer. She won the trivia question, and the question was, which of these parishes came on to talk about the changes made to their church? The correct answer there is St. Martin in Seguin. So congratulations to Nancy Niermeyer. We'll get her put into that drawing for that $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts here in Hayes. Jerome and Angela Schmeidler are the owners, and they are wonderful people. Please support them. I support them. They support us, and they are just great people. Call 785-621-4110 right now if you can help us with this carathon that we are on. We do this twice a year, and this helps us then to continue to grow. And just a little shout out and a thank you to all of you who are listening. You have helped us grow so much over these years that we now have those 5 different stations, and we are moving into a new building, but that's only possible because of your generosity. Thank you so very much for that. And please continue to prayerfully support us and support us through your donations. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. We want to get right back with Jeanna Wellbrock and talking about her pilgrimage. So Jeanna, maybe now we can fast forward back to where you were talking about, you finally make it to where you're getting ready to go to High Mass. You walk in, outside of the church is beautiful, inside kind of, where do we go from there?
So we attended High Mass. It takes like 6 to 8 guys for the incense, the big.
Yeah, that thing's awesome. You can watch a video. Yes. I understand you're not supposed to take a video of this,
yes,
but people have. And yeah, that huge incenser is
it's
like 6 foot tall itself, yes, or something.
It's super amazing. And it's swinging back and forth across the church. I mean, it's not just, up here at the altar. I mean, it is legit side to side. There's certain places people can't sit because you would be beheaded.
Taken out.
And so, that I think was what had intrigued my brother the most. And so he was there for that. But we went to Mass. He then went back to the hotel, and I went ahead and went down to see St. James and went and looked at all the little side altars in church and everything, hung out in adoration for a little bit. And so, I mean, that was all an amazing experience. St. James disciples are buried in the church as well, which I hadn't really thought about the disciples having disciples.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a different thing for me when people talk about disciples. I'm like, oh yeah, like Jesus's disciples. But over there, it's very much, St. James's disciples. And that's how he ended up buried there. So I spent some time there. And then I got back to the hotel, and my brother and I chatted, and he was like, don't you think I want what you have? And I was like, well, good news. Nobody's keeping it from you.
It's free.
You can have it. And he's like, I'm scientific. And I was like, okay.
Great. So is the church.
I'm like, okay, so, well, then I'm sitting here going, see, God, we should have gone with the Eucharistic miracles. I'm telling you, we should have gone with the Eucharistic miracles. There's the scientific. So that's what I challenged him with. And I said, okay, like, have you looked at the Eucharistic miracles? And he's like, what? And so I explained them to him, and he was like, those are outliers. And I was like, okay, I mean, like, let's go down this rabbit hole. Let's play this game. Even if Catholics are wrong and it doesn't really become Jesus's body and blood every single time we go to Mass, and it's only those times that it is actually physically changed in front of us that we can see with our eyes. Could you please explain to me how wheat flour and water turns into human DNA? I'm like, because scientifically, I can't come up with a reason for that. Like, even if those are the only times, like, yeah. And I was like, okay, if those are the only times, wouldn't you still show up to Mass to see if maybe today it's going to happen for you? Like, I don't understand your thought process, because it is scientifically proven. It's been tested by atheist scientists. Like, it's there.
Many of them actually became Christian because of it.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, like, it's there. Go for it. Like, so he said, well, I'll have to do my research. So of course I pulled up St. Carlos's website, and I'm like sending it to him right there in the hotel room. I'm like, well, happy reading.
Fun.
So, of course, he said, I know that you were hoping that we'd get to this and I would just have this major awakening. And I was like, no, like everybody's on their own journey and you've got to find your own way. Like, it's not for me to judge. Like, God told me to come and walk this. So I did it. That was my job. It's my job to plant the seeds. And now it's my job to get out of God's way. And I am not good at that on a lot of things, but that's what I like, even with my own children and their faith. Like, it's my job to plant the seeds. And then it's God's job to water them. Unless he hands me a watering can, and then I will water them. But if not, I have to step back and let him do his work. And so I'm still waiting. And it's funny, like I look at how this has come full circle. So part of, the friend that's walking with me who's joining the church, I'm her sponsor. So I'm going to OCIA with her. And we attended at Immaculate Heart because there was only one over in Victoria and this year. And so being by yourself, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what questions to ask. And, there's just not that conversation piece. So we attended the mission at Immaculate Heart as one of the classes, which Daryl Hall talked at, which it was about how science has discovered God. And I'm sitting there chuckling and I'm like, God, this is exactly what I need for my brother, And so he ends it with his book and, talks about his book and everything. And so I get online and I order his book and I try to read his book. And science and I are not best friends. I mean, I taught middle school science and that was cool and fun, but metaphysics and physics is really not my thing. And I don't care a lot about it. So I read the first paragraph probably 6 to 8 different times, had the book for 6 weeks, could not read it. It's so far over my head that I just didn't care to try, probably is my attitude. So there was an adoration hour over in Victoria that is sat open and it's been in the bulletin and clear before Christmas. I felt like I was supposed to go take this adoration hour, but it's at 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday mornings. And I really like sleep. And so I was like, God, no, like, come on, give me a better hour. And so finally, about a month ago, I was like, all right, God, if it's still in the bulletin on Sunday, I'll take it. I can't just follow what he says. I mean, he has got to hit his head against the wall with me sometimes and just be like, seriously, girl, could you just do what I tell you?
That's probably a lot of us.
You pray, but you're not listening. I am answering and you're not listening. So it was still in the bulletin and I went, okay, fine. So I called and they took the 2:30 to 3:30 and I was like, well, I'm taking this book. Like if I'm coming for you, I'm taking this book. And we're going to figure this out in adoration. And amazingly, that is the only place I can read and actually comprehend that book.
Wow.
And so 4 weeks into it, and I just started chapter 3.
Hey,
this morning.
You're making progress.
Like, it takes me a little bit. And there are times I stop and I look up at the monsters. I'm like, bring it down a few levels. Like, I'm going to need you to make this make sense. Yeah, metaphysics is not my thing.
Wow.
Omni this and omni that. And I'm just like, oh. So yes, I spend a lot of time looking up words.
Yeah, that's okay. We are. I'm going to break in really quickly. We're speaking with Jeanna Wellbrock and talking about her pilgrimage to the Camino. And she went with her brother, having a great conversation here. And we want to get right back to it. But first, I want to thank Sonia Hazelhorse, who pledged $300. So thank you so much, Sonia. That becomes a $600 pledge with those matching funds. If you would like to partner with her, please call 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. You can also donate at dvmercy.com and you can look there. They try to update the little thermometer as often as possible to show you where you're at, where we're at. We started the day with over $20,000 from yesterday. We still have those matching funds. We still have a long way to go, but we know that with your help, we can make it there. 785-621-4110. I want to hop right back into this story with Jeanna Wellbrock, talking about her spiritual time with the pilgrimage and her brother, the physical difficulties and things like that. But also discussing, this book that you're talking about, the scientific ways of understanding proofs for God, and where you're going to go with maybe sharing that with your brother and different things like that. So
for him, but I know I have to read it first. He'll read through it in no time. I
Okay.
mean, it'll make sense to him. That's his thing. So I know I have to be ready to have that conversation with him. So I can't just read the book. I have to actually understand the book.
Yeah.
I've actually considered handing it to a friend who's really smart and being like, hey, how about you read this and then give me
Teach
like
me.
the Cliff Notes for Dummies, please. But I know that it's going to be a challenge. And it's going to be something that my brother, you know, like when he has a conversation, I have to be at that level and able to have it. So I have to figure this out. And so I am going to read this book, and I am going to be in adoration for a long time until I get it done. But it's been great so far. I've actually started to enjoy it. Last night or this morning, I should say, I made more pages than I have in any one single night. So I'm like, hey, we're getting a pace here. We're starting to figure it out. Maybe some of these words are starting to become a little more familiar. But it will, I will eventually give him his copy and then be like, here, you know, read it. And you wanted science. Here's science.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to ever necessarily see the fruits of it. And that I think that's one of the things that, you know, sometimes we do things and we're like, you know, God, okay, I did this. Now I want to see the fruit. Like, you know, I raised this kid. Now I want to see the fruit. And that's not how it always works. And it's God's time. And I don't function well all the time on that timeline. I kind of like my timeline.
You're not the only one. So you're in good company.
It's not for me. And I go back to during COVID time. I was freaking out and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I need Jesus. You cannot keep the Eucharist from me. And so I called Father John and I was like, I need Jesus. And he chuckled. And he's like, yeah, don't we all? And I was like, no, I need Jesus. I was like, you can't keep him from me. I need Jesus. And so he actually met me at church the next day and I got Jesus. So I'm like, I got contraband Jesus during COVID. But
that's great.
kind of think we all should have.
That's awesome.
I'm like, no, you can't keep him from me. Like, I need the Eucharist. Like, trust me, everyone needs me to need the Eucharist as well. Like, so Father and I were talking, and he said, you know, what you're struggling with is the false sense of control you like to think you have. And he's like, because right now you're being shown how you don't have it. And he's like, as soon as you figure out how to let go of the false sense of control you like to think you have, you're going to find a peace from God that you can't explain. And so I have spent the last 6 years really trying to let go of some of that control. But when you're such a control person like I am, it's really hard to let go of it. And so I would say that that's probably one of the biggest things that I took away from the Camino was you are not in control. And you can do everything that you're supposed to do. And you can prepare and be physically ready for this. And I'm still going to let some curveballs come your way. And you're going to have to figure it out by relying on me. And that's going to be your option. So,
well, and that's probably going to be really good for your brother because it sounds like a control freak is not going to put him in the right place to meet the Lord. And so, wow.
So yeah.
Wow. Well, I want to jump back a little bit. You know, this has been such a wonderful conversation, but I bet there are other people out there too that wonder a little bit, you know, as you're going along, you've got these blisters and everything. And, you know, I'm sure there were still beautiful parts of it too, you know, so can we get to maybe some of those? And as you're traveling along, what's the scenery like? Did you guys interact with other people? What does it kind of look like as you're going through that process besides blisters?
So the scenery was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, there were plenty of times that we, you know, get up to the top of a mountain and turn around and, you know, you could look down on the little village that you were just in. And so that was beautiful. The people were amazing. We didn't meet a lot of people that we actually walked the Camino with. There were a couple of people that we'd run into hit and miss, but they were all staying at hostels. So we missed out on kind of the people part of it, I think. But we would stop along the way. Usually I came back a complete coffee snot. And like coffee in Spain is just better than the flavored water we have over here.
That's why I roast my own beans. And so, yes,
it was amazingly delicious. And so we stopped at little, you know, like coffee shops, cafes, whatever along the way. Everyone was very friendly as long as you tried to talk to them in Spanish. If you walked in and only, you know, like asked them to speak English, they would just kind of snub you, which I had asked, I had posted in like a big Catholic Facebook group if anybody had walked the Camino. And that was one of the things that one of the ladies had sent me was like, you have to try and speak their language. If you try to speak their language, they will work with you. If you walk in and immediately want them to speak English, they won't give you the time of day. And so that was very, very true. And so it was amazing to me how beautiful the different places and yet how varied it was. I mean, the second place that we stayed, it was legitimately a community built into the hill. I mean, it was incredibly steep streets. We found one American-made Ford car over there the entire time we were there because our cars are all too big to fit on their streets and in their parking spots. I mean, everything is so small and compact. I mean, it was built when you got around with horses, you know? I mean, and so my brother did end up locked in the bathroom. That was definitely a very funny encounter. The place we stayed was a brand new remodeled place. And so they had installed the lock backwards or the door handle backwards. And so like the lock didn't work. It was broken, but then it was backwards. So he couldn't even just stick a credit card in to like release it. No. I was so glad it was him that it happened to. And then I stood on the outside and just laughed because I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Like, how do I even call 911? And he's telling me because he had left his phone outside of the bathroom as well. So he can't solve any problems at this point. He's at my mercy. And they don't have anybody at the front desk per se. They're all taking a nap. It's the middle of the afternoon. You get a code, you go into your room. Like you're supposed to take a nap too, not bother them. So, I mean, I called the number, I texted and through WhatsApp with the lady, like everything, like trying to get somebody to come help us. And there was no help. And so, yes, he was locked inside. I was outside laughing, thought it was hilarious. I call Kurt and my brother's like, what do you think he can do? And I'm like, I don't know, but he should at least get the laughter with us. And he's like, I'm not laughing. And I'm like, well, I am. So, I mean, there were those moments that were totally worth it and funny. And I laughed. I mean, I went to church that night. Every evening there was mass. And so I tried to hit them if we made it in time. And so, you know, I went to mass that night and just kind of sat there and chuckled and thought, okay, God, that was well played. Like, glad it was him in the bathroom and not me. I would have panicked. So he got out with a shoelace. It was fine.
Oh, fantastic. So maybe in our last 5 or so minutes, could you tell us then, you've already given us a little bit of insight into some things that have happened, a little bit of, okay, I need to let go of control. And that's a tough one. I hear you there. But also, what are some of the other spiritual benefits that came from this whole journey? And maybe even you're just starting to see them now.
I would say I am. I mean, adoration is one of those things that, I'll be honest, a lot of times people start going to adoration and life gets harder, you know, because the closer you get to God, the harder the devil works. It's how that works out. Yeah. And so I'm like, you know, I'm close enough to God. I don't need to get too awful close because if I get too close, the devil's going to work harder. So that was always kind of my mindset. I know that's not appropriate, but that's how I do things. And so I had kind of, you know, I'll go to adoration. I love to go to adoration with my CYO kids. I'll go to adoration. I'll just pop into the adoration chapel. That's fine. I'm not committed to it. God was like, no, you're going to commit to this. And so I think that's going to have a lot of fruit from it. I've tried to negotiate with God that, you know, like, hey, okay, I'm coming. So can we have a like hedge of protection and keep Satan away? Because we know I struggle enough already. So let's not let him too close. So far, so good. Knock on wood here. Like, I'm like, please, Jesus, help me on this one. Do not let him get too close. Don't let him complicate things anymore. But I would say that, and just trusting. It's that trust piece, which I've had trust issues for 9 years. I mean, Matthew died and I'm like, hey, I went to Wichita fully trusting I was bringing my kiddo home and you said no. And so trust is not always my strong suit. And I think that was part of the Camino was like, I am going to take you here and you're going to suffer and it's going to be hard and you're going to have no choice but to trust so that we can start working on that again. Cause it was kind of like, I'll trust you on this, but not that. And so, I've gotten a little better at trusting to start with and not having to have it proven to me. Still working.
Yeah.
It's been 9 years of not doing it very well. It's going to take a hot minute
Yeah.
to turn that page and do it differently. But
wow. We have been talking with Jeanna Wellbrock on her walk and pilgrimage on the Camino with her brother. Been a wonderful conversation. You're listening to Behold, I Make All Things New, our Divine Mercy Radio Spring Carathon. We've got that goal of $125,000. We're about to wrap up another wonderful conversation here. And if you appreciate what we're doing, if you would please prayerfully consider that prayerfully consider what God is asking you to do. He may just simply be saying, you know what, please pray for them and the work that they do. He may be laying it on your heart to give 5, 10, 500, 1,000. That was a big jump there, wasn't it? But whatever it is, we have matching funds that God has provided through other amazing donors, and we appreciate them. And your dollars will be matched immediately. And so please really do sit down and pray. It's one of those things that sometimes we say, yeah, I'll pray about that. But that's kind of just our way to get out of it. But I'm asking you that you actually would pray about it and ask God, what is it that you want me to do to help them right now? Please call 785-621-4110 or donate at dvmercy.com. All right, right back with Jeanna. So we've got just a couple minutes here. Is there anything that you have that you would like to leave us with before you go today?
I think the biggest thing is just when you take something to prayer, like whether or not to donate or any of it, like be quiet and listen. I think sometimes we go into prayer and we spend all the time listing out what we need or thanking him for this or whatever. And we really forget that important piece of be quiet, because that's when he can actually talk and move our hearts. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm not good at it. I'm learning, but that's when he answers. And that's probably why I didn't get all of the other times that he was answering for the last, 40 plus years of prayer. He's like, you never shut up long enough to hear me. So,
I bet he tells me the same thing. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, now you can practice.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I've been working on being quiet more. You can't say, hey, what do you want? What do you want me to do? And then continue to talk and not be quiet because he can't answer.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Jeanna, thank you so very much.
Yes,
we
thank
appreciate it. Thank you for being loyal supporters. You guys are such a blessing to us, and we really appreciate it. And we thank you for everything that you've given us today.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day.
You do the same.
Thank you. We were on talking with Jeanna Wellbrock about her trip with her brother and walking the Camino. So we want to thank her very much for being here. We want to thank her and her husband for being loyal supporters. And we are going to bring Michael in here really quickly to give you just a couple of updates, and we'll get right back to our program.